speaker of the day, and the next speaker of the day is Aditya Ahluwalia. This is one forum where I've never really introduced anybody saying what they do. It is a forum where people meet because we are friends. This is a place where people share themselves, not just their talents. And I met Aditya, I think about 8, 9 years back, or I don't remember the time, but that was my first journey back to India, and the first magazine that I had approached. And I'd come to Rishikesh. I was a complete newbie in India, complete newbie with this whole system, a complete nobody. And Life Positive gave me a chance to talk about mental health. I still remember my bag was the heaviest because I had some massive expectations of myself, which I've always had. And I'm standing there after 2 days being a speaker, and Aditya was there in the workshop. Some of my relatives were there, and I was looking for a familiar face. And his smile on one end gave me that security that I needed and made me feel very much at home. I was always aware that he was a very big man in his work, and I was nobody. Okay, so you need to really get that. I was nobody, and somewhere I get extremely tongue tied when I realize that people are people of value, people who you really want to not leave a bad impression on. And I was probably standing there trying to, how do you say, do the best of something that I'd never done. Uh, One image that doesn't leave me, we were coming back, and on the way back, we were all going to board a train. And he was standing there. And to be really honest, I'd crossed this whole time. I knew he was somebody, but didn't know who he was. Standing at the platform, and all the people were like treating him like celebrity, and I'm wondering कि क्यों celebrity की तरह इसको treat कर रहे हैं? What is so big about this guy? We sat in the train, and this is on the way back. I'd completed my talk. On the way back, I realized how much of love and support he had got from his magazine and from everybody. Now, why didn't I know this? Because I am little Jhalla. I can be very creative and I can get lost in my own thoughts. I've always been that. My father called me Mola Baksh, somebody who's constantly happy with anything. And for me to observe that, and this is what I put the wish out there on that day, I looked at you and said, wow, this person looks like a person of substance. And it has always been amazing to watch that they can be people who people can respect and look up at. So thank you very much, Aditya, because you were my inspiration on that day. And I said, if people can look up at me like this, it would be a great story to happen. So thank you for giving me that opportunity to see that respect did exist, love did exist. People really looked up at you and valued you for who you were. And that probably has been because of all the work you have done. So over to you, Aditya. This will be an interview type, but it's a free-flowing interview. So I will pace you and I will leave it to you to speak what you want to speak today. So basically, I just wanted to tell people why I got inspired by you. And I've never, ever, ever heard anything horrible about you from your staff, from other people. That talks about who you are. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anu, for saying that. I still remember, and I think I mentioned it to you your first time when you were, in the workshop in Rishikesh, where there was a Live Positive International Festival happening, and you had participated in that. And I remember going on the train to Rishikesh and back. I don't remember you back on the train, though, to be honest. But yes, I remember some interactions that we had, and subsequently at various other festivals. And you also helped me through some things I was going on in my life at one point, and I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Um,
Could you take us
so
into your
yeah,
childhood?
so yeah, so, okay. If I talk about my childhood, it was fairly normal childhood till the time I was, I think, about 15, 16 years of age. I was a very religious person, born into a Sikh family, and around the 15 years of age, a tragedy kind of befell my family, and I lost all faith in God and religion, and I became a non-believer, so as to say. And then from being a non-believer, I became an agnostic. That okay, show me proof that God exists, and I shall believe. Okay, and so I no one could show me that, so I started finding the proof myself. So I went on to study the great masters and some spiritual books. I studied the religious books like the Bhagavad Gita outside Guru Granth Sahib, which I had already studied and read, being coming from a religious Sikh family. So Gita, Quran, the Bible, and then I read many spiritual masters from Sri Aurobindo to Vivekanand and others. And I was also very interested in science at the same time, and I was reading on quantum, you know, theory and theory of relativity and all those things. Um, Being in a school, which actually I had access to all this material, helped also a great deal. Like I mentioned, I studied in Mothers International School, which is part of Sri Aurobindo Society, and so I was greatly influenced by the thought of Sri Aurobindo and the mother and their message to humanity. So that kind of around the age of 15, 16, I would say my spiritual journey actually began. So that is when, I became a different person in many ways. My meditative practices started, my spiritual practices started. So
So,
before that, my childhood was fairly normal.
when you say normal, what do you mean by saying it was fairly normal?
I would say fairly normal in the sense, पढ़ाई करनी है, study है, you have to go to school and get good marks, and weekly visits to the gurdwara or family functions, and observing the usual family traditions, and then around at the age of about 16, I gave all that up. Right, I became
Yeah,
detached with all that.
yeah.
It's like studies were not that important anymore. There was more to life than just studies, and there was more to life than religion. There was more to life than family. There was this whole universe and world out there, which I could make part of my larger family. So the whole outlook changed, I would say. So from being just a normal child.
People generally say, and psychologists say, that the first 6 years make a person. And if you were to go on the first 6 years of your life, which you think is very normal, but going to Gurudwara, looking at all this, and the religion was there, what's an impact your mom, dad left on you? And who were they really? And your nana, nani, maybe dada, dadi, bring them in, because I love ancestors being here, because I always believe that we are not alone. We are, huge bundle of people and energies around us. Yeah.
Well, my father was from Jalandhar, and he was a journalist mainly. Most of the profession he did was in journalism, and my mother was actually from Rawalpindi, but she was born and raised in Calcutta, and that was very interesting for us because our nankas were in Calcutta, and we used to go to Calcutta all the time, and so we had a special. I still have, and my siblings a special affinity and love for Calcutta, and we love being there, going there, and visiting the markets and so on and so forth. Um, and they and my nanny had a great influence on me actually. Among the grandparents, the only grandparent I ever interacted was my nanny, and because with her is when I would go to Gurdwara in the evenings. She would take me there whenever she'd be visiting us. Then every evening there was this ritual that I have to go to the Gurdwara with her, and she would read the Guru Granth Sahib and explain the meaning of that to me. And this is I'm talking about when I was probably 5 years old, 4 years old,
Wow.
6 years old, the age you're talking about. So yes, that had some impact in me about at least maybe the religion was the stepping stone which led me to spirituality, if you would like to call it that. So that's religious grounding at an early stage, maybe,
Yeah.
led me to spirituality.
So when Nani was reading the Guru Granth Sahib to you, or you were going to the Gurudwara where Kar Seva is everything and they
Yeah.
don't really have an ideal to worship, what's an impact that left on you?
You see, I do not really want to go into the religious aspect of it because it can
No,
be very controversial.
I don't want you also to get into the religious part of it. I just wanted to look at it from the top and just give us a slight highlight of what it was. We are not
You
looking at
see,
good, bad, and controversy.
I didn't know anything else. Let me put it that way. There was nothing else I knew. I was not going to temples. I was not going to mosques. I was not going to churches. I didn't know what else existed, right? For me, that
Wonderful.
was the world. That's what it is. And that's what it was.
Yeah.
So the impact, of course, was always there in the sense that I never grew up thinking people are separate, people are different in any way, because there was no concept of any kind of caste. Even I didn't know what my caste was till much later in life, till probably after I turned 20 or something. And somebody probably, when my sister was probably getting married, or of talks of marriage were happening, I came to know what our caste is. So things like that were really, who am I interacting with, what, these things were not never discussed in a home. We never talked about them. So that definitely was there as part of, I think, my being brought up as a Sikh.
Thank you so much for that. So, we are talking to a Sikh man who talks about life in various different ways, goes to Sri Aurobindo School, is in Calcutta, has the roots, Bengali roots, with a Sikhi nani. And can you imagine what that makes a person? It's a very broad spectrum in which then you're flowing without, it's no accident that you've been given a broader perspective about life right there, right in the beginning. So if we move
Yeah,
further, yeah,
yeah.
would you like to say
Just
something
to
there?
correct, I do not profess to be a Sikh. That's all. I'm not a practicing Sikh. I was
I
just
know
born
that.
in a Sikh family. I was
I
just born
know
in a
that.
Sikh
I
family.
know that.
Okay,
And
okay.
absolutely, I'm with you. I'm just going to where the roots were. Okay.
Oh, sure,
So
sure.
we're moving further now here, and he's talking about the library of his school, which is full of these great masters. And when he was talking about it about 4 days back, in my mind, I was actually imagining all these masters coming alive. Did you ever feel that in that library there was something happening like magic, which was then creating magic in your bones? Because I know that at that time you were asked to edit a magazine for the first time. So if you can take us through that journey.
You see, I I always considered those masters not as dead masters, but as my living gurus,
Yeah,
because their words were alive to me. So for me, they were living gurus. I still consider them as my living gurus. I
yes.
still have their books with me. I still refer to them whenever I want to, I feel the need to. So for me, I have had no master in flesh and blood as such. So for me, they have been living masters. So, so they were always alive for me, and they're still alive for me.
Wow. Um, you were made to edit a magazine right in school, if I'm not mistaken. What was the name of the magazine, and how
Yeah,
did
it
you
was
find that work?
actually Yeah, actually, it was in the ashram. I was staying in the ashram at that time, which was attached to the school. And the editor of the ashram magazine, which was called the Call Beyond. Of course, there's always a school magazine which comes out, annual edition or something. But this was actually a monthly magazine which used to come out from the ashram, called the Call Beyond. And the editor decided to quit or fell sick. Something happened, and just the chairman of the trust, the ashram, just pulled me aside one day and said, Aditya, why don't you go and start editing this magazine? So I said, okay, you should say I can do it. I can do it. And I started editing, and the magazine's name was called Beyond. And I learned my editing skills and everything at that age, about I think 16 years of age.
Wow. And look at the sound of the name, guys. Call Beyond. The masters who were alive and never dead, the books that were guiding him, and from that space to life positive. Yeah. So, could you take us through the journey of what works, like what are the different professions that you created for yourself, and how did this book come into existence?
So, I mean, I did go through various professions. I did my studied in economics, then I did a lot of work in computers. I studied computers, and I was one of the probably earliest professionals in computers in India in 1980s, when there were hardly any computer professionals, and even the PCs were not out yet. And but then I went into advertising, marketing, and the telecommunication. So, and then I took out this magazine, Life Positive, because I came in with an assistant editor of India Today at that time, who had just worked on a story on New Age in India, and they had got a very good response on that cover story, which he did in a featured story, which he did for India Today at that time. And he came to me, and we were having. He was a good friend, and we were discussing about the story. And he said, "Why don't we start a magazine dedicated to spiritual aspects, spiritual life in India?" And I said, well, I'm sure there's a lot of it already happening in India. And he told me, no, there is no magazine like this in India. I said, you must be joking. I mean, how can there not be? I mean, India is where the fountain of spiritual knowledge is. This is the from where it flows. This is where it begins. This is where it happens. And we did some research, and we found there was no spiritual magazine in India, no personal growth magazine in India. There were some sectarian magazines coming out of various camps, but there were nothing which was which would appeal to everyone. And so we decided between the two of us to bring out Life Positive. The idea was hatched in 1995. In April 96, first issue of Life Positive was out.
Wow.
24 years ago. Yeah.
24 years ago. And so I'm really intrigued to ask, how did Life Positive change your life? And my mentor, Dr. Kwesi, often says, the name is always something that will challenge you to keep yourself positive during your entire life feature of the 24 years so far. What all did the magazine give you? What all did you give the magazine?
Anu, you said something, where on the train that this person looks like he is protected, or actually, I think even Jennifer said that you are protected, or there is an aura protecting you. There's a protection around you.
Yes.
And I have always believed that. I have always believed that since childhood, that there is divine protection around me. I'm very blessed to be protected. And so I live in a state of complete surrender. So when I live in a state of complete surrender, then things are really easy. The challenges become like, they are really superfluous. They are just, for me, they are challenges are opportunities to grow. That are being thrown my way. And so, of course, so through the 24 years of Life Positive, through my career, through my personal life, there have been lots of challenges. And they continue to be. Even today, there are lots of challenges. We are all living through very challenging times. But I live in a state of surrender that I am going to do my work as it is. And there is a greater force which is outside me and within me that will protect me at all times. So if I live with that belief, I think it's fine. I don't have to worry about anything.
Any story, any person during this journey of 24 years where you've interacted with a lot of souls? You've had exhibitions, you guys have had festivals. Anybody who left a deep impact in your psyche or somewhere where you felt, oh my God, my life would have been so incomplete had I not taken this venture?
Oh, there are so many of them, Anu, including you. So I cannot name one, and that'll be so unfair, so unfair. So everyone I have come across have left such great impact on me. Sometimes by just giving words of encouragement, by saying things, by doing things, or even smiling at me. Like you yourself mentioned at the platform, so many people you know, were encouraging me, or so you said treating me like a celebrity. I don't think I'm a celebrity at all, but I think I was just receiving the love of each one of them, and I was the recipient of that love, and that is what I'm so grateful for. And at every stage of my life, I have received so much love, and I have so much to be grateful for.
It feels as if the books that were there had your masters who are actually not there in the world, but they were there. And then you were standing with blood and flesh, people who called themselves masters but had not become masters still. And there is a huge difference between being a master and to be talked about and being silent. I've always watched you to be a very silent spectator, watching, observing, and moving on. How did you create that attitude of just watching and moving on? Watching and moving on. That's not easy.
Um, I actually don't have much to say, usually. So so it's, and I like to listen. I like to learn, because there's so many people who are so knowledgeable out there, and they're experts in their fields, and they know the stuff they're talking about. And so I like to learn. I really like to learn and listen to them, because if I think I know everything, I can never learn, right? So I think I know nothing, and there's so much out there that is to learn. And if there is something I can really talk about, which is important, which can affect people's lives or change people's life, I do that. But otherwise, I usually like to keep my mouth shut. And it has always held me in very good space. It has held me in very good space. So
Yes. So during this COVID time, which is definitely challenging time for many, many businesses, and for the first time, your magazine has gone online during this. Uh, and you've definitely made the shifts that were required right now. What are the few words of wisdom that you can give to people? Because even though I know you don't like to give any upedesh, you would rather silently observe and watch. Right now, maybe something said from you or how you kept yourself going could help people deal with this challenging time. Thank you.
see, people have heard this lots of times, and it's an oft quoted phrase that the greater the challenge, greater the opportunity. In my case, I have always found it to be true. As a matter of fact, uh, great challenges are blessings. I always believe that. And sometimes, even what we call tragedies, sometimes what we call disappointments, are great blessings, because they really propel us and push us to a path to our personal growth and progress, which would not have happened if those challenges were not thrown our way. And I firmly believe that. And I take this time similarly, that this is a really challenging time for all of us. And we need to make the tragedy is what the tragedy is. Tragedy is not that the time is challenging. The tragedy is that we do not make use of this challenging time. We do not use this opportunity that has been given to us for our growth, or for the growth of our nation, or for the growth of our planet. That is a tragedy, that we do not learn. We do not learn the lesson that this challenge is throwing at us. That becomes a tragedy. As long as we learn that lesson and use it, for our advantage is actually an opportunity. It's not a challenge. It will not remain a challenge at all.
It's so beautifully said. And thank you so much, because it's not what it is, it's how we take it to be and what we make of that time that changes everything for us and for others. So,
Yes.
where do you see, the last question, where do you see life positive in many years to go?
Oh,
Oh,
actually, I do not see it. I personally do not think I am and responsible for Life Positive. Just me. I mean, it's I think it's really my readers, right, which will drive where the magazine goes, where Life Positive goes. It's the people who are going to read the magazine who are either going to benefit from it. If they're going to benefit from it, then yes, it will continue and do very well. If they are not, then it will die, and which is fine. It's not something which has to live forever. Maybe something else will replace it. Something else will take it forward. So I'm not that attached to it that I need to really see it through, come what may. It's fine. It will find its own way. It will find its own way. And I don't know exactly what the way is going to be right now.
what a beautiful message. What a beautiful message. To live like that, detached in surrender. And I did try my best to make him say that he is attached to something. But really, you take the cake and icing, and you kept your calm right till the end. So thank you so much for being in conversation. I loved it. And I love the surrender that you have and the calmness that you have around you. To be honest, Life Positive has been a family for me. I have never felt not part of it. Like I said, I could do any work for Life Positive and be very happy with it. So thank you again, and thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Thank you,
No,
Aditya.
thank you so much, Anu. Thanks a lot. It has been a pleasure being on this forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much.